Thank you for tuning into the Short Stacks. I'm Lisa Quintero, Young Adult Librarian. This is a show where we talk to you about what we've been reading, listening to, or watching. And today we're going to be learning about the Great Lake Sturgeon.
See the difference between these and the ones up at the other building?
Yeah, so how old are these?
Only 5 months old, approximately 5 months old. So, they come in as eggs, and so I'm hoping that, that all of these survive and will be released at the end of September.
What do they feed them?
They're getting bloodworms and krill.
Okay.
So that krill is an ocean organism, and basically all that comes frozen. When they're really little, they get live brine shrimp, so we raise that from scratch, basically. But the krill and stuff mimics the food that they would get here naturally. We have little isopods and other things in that same category that live in the river and in the lake when they're going. So, and that's what you smell. The fish themselves don't smell at all. It's the krill that goes in there.
I'm here with Mary Hollebeck at River Edge Nature Center. Mary, can you tell us what your title is here and what exactly you do?
Sure. I'm the Citizen Science Manager for the Nature Center, and one of the many things that I do is to manage the Sturgeon project. I'm the on-site manager overseen by the DNR. So officially that's one of the things I do, along with many other things. I'm also in charge of the high school Testing the Waters program, which is in many of the high schools in the area, along with a lot of the other things.
So can you tell us a little bit about sturgeon for listeners who might not be familiar with them? Where they're from, what their characteristics are, and all that?
Sure. So lake sturgeon, that's the species we're talking about, are endemic to Wisconsin and many of the states in the U.S., but there are 27 species altogether worldwide, and they're all what they call circumpolar. They're found in the northern hemisphere, and that has to do with the kind of water quality and temperature of the water and so on that they prefer. But all 27 species are either on the threatened and endangered species worldwide, mostly for the same reason. They were overfished back in the 1800s, and dams, pollution, and a lot of other things led to their demise, and that was also the case for the lake sturgeon. But they are the oldest and largest freshwater fish in the Great Lakes. So people that have been perhaps out fishing, for salmon or something out on Lake Michigan may have encountered them, but they get quite large. The lake sturgeon can get 7 to 9 feet long.
Oh, wow.
And so, it's quite an eye opener for somebody who sees one for the first time. So that's a mature sturgeon, but if we're talking about the other species, such as green or white sturgeon, they can get much larger, but those are ocean dwelling, not found around here kind of thing. There are 2 other species of sturgeon that are found in Wisconsin. One is the pallid, which is nearly extinct, and the other is the shovel nose, and those are also not very common, and they're found in the western part of the state. So say for instance the Mississippi River or the Wisconsin River, and when they're mature you wouldn't mistake the one for the other. The lake sturgeon gets much bigger, the shovel nose is a much smaller fish, and so they are very unique in that they are basically a living dinosaur. The lake sturgeon is over 150 million years old in lineage, and they predate the Great Lakes and the dinosaurs.
Oh, wow.
So they were found in the stomachs of dinosaurs, so the dinosaurs were eating sturgeon, and so that helped be able to date the sturgeon, but so they go way back. And the fact that they got into the Great Lakes, well, the Great Lakes weren't here until the glaciers were, and so the sturgeon actually predate the glaciers, the last glacier period too. So when the Great Lakes were carved out by the glaciers, they found their way from the bigger rivers like the Mississippi and then out into the Great Lakes. So a really huge fish, and they're kind of primitive. If you saw them, you would think so too. They have scutes instead of scales. So our modern fish have scales to cover their bodies, where a sturgeon has scutes, which are armored plates, and the armored plates come together in 5 rows. So if you can picture these plates coming together in 5 spots on the body of the fish, and that protects them, especially when they're young, from being eaten by something bigger. So that makes them unique, and they're a bottom dweller, so perfectly harmless, don't have teeth as adults, just a sucking mouth part, and they have barbells, a lot like a carp, you know, to feel their way around the bottom and to feel the food they're going to eat and that kind of thing. So cartilage instead of bone. So again, that makes them different and unique in the animal kingdom. So.
Yeah, is their like outer surface kind of hard, kind of like a turtle, or is it softer?
If you feel them when they're young, and so a fish that's less than about 10 years old is going to look really rugged looking with those plates coming together. But as they get older, just like humans, we kind of get that middle-aged spread. Well, same thing happens with the sturgeon. They kind of sleek out, and they don't even look like the same species from the time they're young to the time that they're old enough to start spawning. As a mature adult sturgeon, they're going to look really sleek and almost slippery, although they're not.
Okay. So how did the restoration program come about, and are there any partners involved?
Oh, certainly, yeah. So this project got started. We are the first streamside breeding facility in Wisconsin, and we got our start in 2006. And the DNR and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service came together and decided that, you know, the population of lake sturgeon in Lake Michigan had been depleted to the point where they really felt it was necessary to start trying to, encourage new growth in the lake. So they have 6 of these facilities, these streamside breeding facilities on Lake Michigan. There are 2 in Wisconsin and 4 in Upper Michigan, along with a hatchery in Upper Michigan. All of us are kind of regulated the same way, even though it's 2 different DNRs. We both have sort of the same regulations that we release anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 fish a year, and that is so that we aren't like swamping the gene pool, from any one of these 6 or 7 facilities. So we're trying to get as much genetic diversity out in the lake as possible. So they're all of the facilities look alike, and ours is the only one though that's pretty much operated by volunteers with staff oversight. The volunteers are here every day helping and doing things like caring for the fish and cleaning and backwashing filters and that sort of thing. And we take care of some of the extra feedings and treatments and so on.
So yeah, what exactly does the project entail? So there's feeding, there's, raising them. You said that you get eggs here. So how long does it take them to hatch? How long do they grow here before they're released?
Good question. The breeding stock, actually, the lake sturgeon are found in they're endangered in 19 of the 20 states they're found in. Wisconsin is the only state that they're not on the threatened and endangered species list. They are on the watch list here in Wisconsin. And Wisconsin, in that kind of the Lake Winnebago area and the Wolf River chain, that is the breeding ground for lake sturgeon throughout the country, if not the world. That's where there's the highest concentration of lake sturgeon. So the project gets started when the sturgeon start migrating out of the lakes, which would be like Lake Winnebago or some of the other lakes in that general area. They start migrating up the rivers to start spawning. The males come in first, and then the females follow about 4 or 5 days later. And this takes place when the water temperature in the Wolf River gets to be about 50 or 55 degrees. The sturgeon can tell, I don't know how, but they do. And so the males migrate in preparation for spawning, and then the females follow a couple days later. And then they spawn along the edges of the river where there are these rocky outcroppings where their eggs, once they're laid, would have a safe place to attach to and not keep getting washed downstream. So this year our eggs came the 9th of April, which is the second earliest we've ever received them. This is the 15th year of the project, and only one other time did we get them this early. Other years it can be as late as the 9th of May. It all depends on what happens in the north part of the state, because they oftentimes get late snowstorms that we don't get here, and of course all that snow, when it starts melting, goes into the Wolf River and cools it down. So the spawning period is usually about a week long, but that too varies depending on the temperature. And then the eggs, they actually are collected and fertilized right there along the Wolf River. These eggs came this year from right below the Shaman Dam, and they bring them immediately the same day to the streamside breeding facility here, and we start raising them as eggs from that very first day on.
So does the DNR collect them, or
yeah, we go out usually with a group of volunteers just to watch, because it's fun to see how they go about doing this. But yeah, the DNR and U.S. Fish and Wildlife is also there. They're collecting for their facilities. Like there is a hatchery in Genoa in Wisconsin, and so they are collecting for their facility along with some others that are from out of state. So everybody's collecting at the same time. It's it's a big tourist thing. Lots and lots of people, not with COVID, but other years have been a lot more people out there watching this all happen, and then they're brought back here, and we start raising them in hatching jars, which circulates the eggs, keeps them from sticking together. And that takes about a week for them to hatch. And then when they hatch, they're tiny, tiny little slivers, basically, that you can't really see. And they don't start feeding until they lose their egg sac. So that can be another week or so. So when they've lost that egg sac, that's when the volunteers start, because that's when we have to start feeding them. And then they're here the entire summer. They just keep getting bigger, and we just keep feeding them more. And then they're released in the fall, usually before the 1st of October, just so they have a chance to get used to the water temperature and out in the lake before, we run into the winter weather. So, yeah, that's kind of what goes on down here.
Yeah, and so how can folks help with the project? Can they release their own sturgeon? How does that? Who releases the sturgeon?
So we keep them until they're fingerling size, where they have a really good chance of survival off the lake. And because the water temperature is going to get cold here too, they're going to stop growing in the fall. When the temperature here gets to be in the river. This is river water coming into the streamside breeding facility, and they specifically do that. They're raising them on Milwaukee River water, so they come back to the Milwaukee River to spawn when they're an adult. So we're using river water to raise them on, and so when we get into the fall weather and the temperature in the river starts cooling down, they're going to stop growing it, and so there's really no point in keeping them here any longer. That's why they release them in early October. But yes, we have an event that's coming up on the 19th of September that is combined with Harbor Fest. So Harbor Fest, Sturgeon Fest, and the Milwaukee River Keepers are all combining their activities this year, and we're all going to do this as one big event at the harbor on the 19th of September. So that's one thing people can do to get involved is help us with the project by supporting a fish. And it basically is a donation to help us keep the project going. So as I mentioned, this is the 15th year, but we have 10 more years of this to go. This is a 25-year project because lake sturgeon females don't mature until they're 25 years old. So we won't know for sure that this project has been a success until the females start coming back. Our first male from 2007 came back this year at age 15. The males mature earlier than the females do. So the first mature male from our streamside breeding facility came up the river this year in April, just like they were supposed to, but I didn't find any females. So I'm going to go back out and next year come back, perhaps a couple years later come back, and eventually they'll hopefully find the females that have been raised here too.
So do you tag the fish in order to keep track of them?
Yes, so all of the fish, that's another reason why they're kept here until they're big enough to tag. So they put what's called a pit tag, passive integrated transponder, in this little pit tag. Is like the microchip you put in your cat or dog to keep track of them, if they get lost. Well, the pit tag stays with that fish for life, hopefully, it doesn't fall out, but it's about the size of a grain of rice. And on that tag, there's a 15-digit number, and that 15-digit number identifies it as a fish that was raised here on the Milwaukee River water. And it also includes, a big database. It includes who the parents, the adults were that were involved in the project that year, and all that kind of information. information too. So they're trapped in that regard, but only if they're recaptured can they tell that those fish are from here. And they do. The DNR does survey work, not just necessarily for lake sturgeon, but they do recapture them, when they're out, trying to survey for perch or trout or whatever the other organism might be. So, and they have recaptured a bunch of them. The ones this year that they found just happened to be big enough and noticeable enough that somebody called the DNR and said, hey, there's a pretty good sized sturgeon out here, somewhere in that Estabrook Dam area. And so the DNR was able to come out, and they're quite docile, and so they were able to net them, scan them. They use a barcode scanner just like you use in the grocery store. Scan your groceries. Well, that number gets read out on that scanner, and then they can check their database. And sure enough, that's how they found out it was from here. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Right. So they also, in the first couple of years, tagged them with, they used telemetry, so they had radio collars on some of the fish, so they could actually track them with telemetry.
Okay, to see where they would go.
Right, and then after that, they also, 2 years after that, so 2007 and 8, they put sonic tags in them and basically tracked them with like sonar, and that's installed and was installed in the river, so they would pick up the pinging sound from those tags on those fish. They wanted to know how fast the fish were moving out of the river and out into the lake, and they found some were really slow and lazy, and it took almost a month to move out, and others, were gone in a week, so they moved right out into the lake. So that's the reason for that kind of thing. But they don't continue that because they already have that information. There was no sense in continuing to tag them and monitor them that way because they knew kind of what the pattern was by that point.
Yeah, do they spend like most of their life in the lake or in the river? Is it equally divided?
They spend their whole life out in the lake.
Okay.
And the same is true of the fish in the Winnebago area. They only come back to the rivers to spawn.
Okay.
And I mean, when they're tiny, when they're small, they might hang around the mouth of the river, it's protected, or the water's a little warm or whatever. But as they get more mature, they're going to move out into the lake further. So they're near shore fish. So people that are out on their boats, doing some kind of casual fishing might encounter them. You cannot fish for them legally on Lake Michigan. There are other places, in Wisconsin where there's a hook and line season for them, but not on Lake Michigan. So wherever they've been basically wiped out from, or almost wiped out from, they're trying to restore the population so they don't have a fishing season there.
So if somebody were to casually catch one, would they just have to release them again?
Right, exactly. And they would know. I mean, this fish is so unique, they would know that this is not something they've ever seen before, probably. And so they would know right away they have something that, is unusual, and put it back. So yeah, it's regulated in that regard.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so finally, this wouldn't be a library podcast if we didn't talk about books.
Sure.
Would you care to share a little bit about your favorite nature or science books?
Sure. Actually, we were quite lucky. When this project started in 2006, there really wasn't much written about Lake Sturgeon, nor was there much, in the way of movies or programs or anything about that. But in 2007, this was one of those bigger movies that you might see down at Discovery World or someplace like that, where it was called Mystery of the Great Lakes. It starred a lake sturgeon and our own Ron Brook from Wisconsin. He is one of the DNR people that worked on the Sturgeon project for 40 years. He was the star of the show along with the sturgeon, and so it was called Mystery of the Great Lakes, and we watched them filming it, and that was really fun to watch and then go and see it in one of those theaters in the round. And then their book came out. So right after that, a book that's called People of the Sturgeon came out about the same time, 2008 or 2009, and Ron Brook and Kathleen Schmitt and also Fred Pinkowski from the Water Institute. All three of them are co-authors for the book, but it's the most comprehensive book on Lake Sturgeon, especially because it's pretty pertinent to Wisconsin, and really fun reading, lots of great pictures, but a lot about not only the history of the projects here in Wisconsin, but also the Native American kind of perspective on Lake Sturgeon. Sturgeon are a revered fish in the Native American culture. It doesn't matter which species or which tribe, they are revered by all of them. And so there's a lot of that kind of information in the book, along with, we have a rich history of they're called the Sturgeon Guards, and these were people that lived up in that area around Lake Winnebago, and back when the sturgeon started to just dwindle in numbers, they started to realize that if we don't police ourselves, these fish are going to be gone. And there was just so much poaching going on, fishing for them out of season, taking too many all at once, whatever it was. So they created the Sturgeon Guards, and the Sturgeon Guards basically patrolled the shorelines of the lake and the rivers when they were coming in to spawn, to keep people from taking the fish while they were in the spawn. And so now, this continues to this day, and there are other states and other countries that are doing the same sort of thing to protect their sturgeon, to keep them from being poached when they're so vulnerable in the spring when they're there to spawn. So this is, one of the best books. My book is just, all, highlighted and earmarked everywhere. There is another book that's called The Great Lakes Sturgeon, and it was written by Auer and Dave Dempsey. That is a little, I want to say more technical, a little less fun reading. Not that it doesn't, the information is all very...
just more academic, maybe.
Right, exactly. I just found the pictures, enjoyable here. But there are a lot of children's books about it too, and as I mentioned, that because it is a revered fish in the Native American culture, there's one that's called Nanabosho, Soaring Eagle, and the Great Sturgeon, and it's a story about a family that was getting quite hungry, and they went out to fish for sturgeon in the winter months when they were hard to come by, and they kept taking more and more fish, and in doing so, one of the children from the family nearly drowned, and then the father of the family started to reconsider why he was taking so many fish when he really didn't need them. So they started putting them all back, and then kind of they learned their lesson, and so only took what they needed. So that was the moral of that story. But it's really nicely illustrated, and a really nice fun book for kids. There's another one that's called The Tale of the Great Whitefish, which we don't have white sturgeon here. That's another species, an ocean species. But what's nice about it is, again, good illustrations and a lot about the life history of the lake sturgeon. So those are a couple that I would recommend between the adult books and the children's books. Enjoyable reading.
Cool, thank you. Can you tell us any more about what people can expect at Sturgeon Fest this year on September 19th?
Sure. So the event starts at 11 o'clock, and it's free and open to the public, all three of those things going on at the same time. 11 o'clock people will start coming in. 11:30, for those who are interested in the Sturgeon project, there will be sort of a opening remarks, thanking our sponsors, that kind of thing. And then right at noon, we have a Native American person who will be, his name is Dan Schiller. He will be blessing the sturgeon, which is a tradition, to send these fish off, wish them good luck out there as they grow and mature in the lake. And so, there's a short little, blessing of the fish, and he releases one of the fish, and then everybody else starts releasing right after that. So our project, that once they're starting to go in the water, we're pretty much done. But it can, because we have over 1,000 fish, it can take a couple hours to let all these fish go, which is wonderful. It's a great family event. It's so fun to see the kids and the families releasing these fish, and again, knowing full well that these fish are probably going to outlive all of us. So, this is your way of touching the future. Those fish someday will come back to this river, and we'll be so proud of the fact that we were involved in the project. But then, starting at 12:30, Milwaukee River Keepers will start their boat parade. And I've been there for that, and it's so fun watching every year they have a theme, and the boats are all decorated according to the theme, and they all start and come past the end of the harbor there, and there's a lot of cheering, and it just is a fun event, and so that'll go on probably 12:30 to maybe 1:15, 1:30, depends on how if there's a lot of wind, they might lose.
How the river's doing that day,
and how many boats they get in the parade. But then going on throughout all of that, they have food trucks, and they have fishing. They have an actual a touch tank for Wisconsin fish.
Okay.
Provides a big swimming pool with bass and northern and whatever, and this big swimming pool. And so the kids and families can come and see the native fish in the big swimming pool. They have other fishing demonstrations. They've got a band that's going to be playing. So, it's a festival for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of things going on, different places, different times. The School of Freshwater Sciences is also going to be allowing people in to take tours. So there's no end of things that you could do once you get there.
Yeah, normally it was at Lakeshore State Park, right? So this year it's at the UWM School of Freshwater Sciences.
Right, it's right there, So again, it's been instrumental in raising sturgeon too, just in a different way. They're doing a lot more experiments and that sort of thing in the school. So it's a different kind of a project that they're working on there, but a lot more research going on in the school too. So you perhaps get a chance to see much bigger sturgeon if you walk into school. I'm not sure what their tour will involve, but one of the fellows that wrote the book is actually employed and been part of the school for eons. So it should be.
Yeah, it sounds like it'll be a great event.
Right, I'm hoping to get my own tour of that school yet.
Yeah, I've never been there yet.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building.
All right, well, thank you very much, Mary. I'm glad that we got to talk about sturgeon. And
yes, I hope you come down, and if not, check us out. The Streamside Marine Facility is here, and will be for the next 10 years, so through pretty much the whole summer months, so if you call the Nature Center, we can arrange for you to tour the Streamside Marine Facility too, if you come out this way.
So once again, that event is on Sunday, September 19th. It is located at the UWM School of Freshwater Sciences, 600 East Greenfield Avenue in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's going to be between Barclay and Harborview Plaza, and the event runs from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. So be sure to check it out. If you are interested in sponsoring a sturgeon, you can go to sturgeonfest.org or to find out information on how to volunteer. And if you can't make it to the fest, you can always visit the sturgeon at River Edge Nature Center, and you can find them at riveredgenaturecenter.org. If you're interested in learning more about the Great Lakes ecology, you can also check out The Death and Life of the Great Lakes by Dan Egan, or The Great Lakes, Natural History of a Changing Region by Wayne Grady. Library News. After Labor Day, we're going to be returning to our pre-COVID hours, so you can take a look at those on our website at shorewoodlibrary.org. We are also currently seeking applicants for our Teen Advisory Board. Teen Advisory Board members volunteer and earn community service hours. They help design and lead library programs. They advise on library collections, and they learn a lot of important job skills. So if you have a teen at home who's entering 7th through 12th grade, you can have them fill out an application on our website at shorewoodlibrary.org/teens-teen-advisory-board, or you can have them come into the library and pick up an application. We will be having a mandatory orientation on September 21st. It will be virtual, and that information is on our events calendar. We are also continuing several of our Take and Make kits, so Art Cart to Go will continue on Wednesdays. We will also have a monthly Tinker Lab kit as well as a monthly Teen Take and Make kit. And Miss Heidi is going to be continuing Story Times on the Lawn, which are going to be on Thursdays at 10 a.m. If you're interested in the Story Times on the Lawn, please register via our website. You can click on the link at the event calendar on the first one, which is on September 9th, and go ahead and register for those. She will also be continuing Family Fun Night to Go once a month as well. We also have a few adult programs coming up this month. We have Affordable Housing 101 with Reggie Jackson, which is going to be a virtual program offered at 6:30 p.m. on September 14th. And then Haley is going to be hosting the book club, the AM book club, on September 16th. And that will be outside. The book that they are reading is Cry the Beloved Country by Alan Patton. If weather permits, otherwise, if weather is bad, then it will be virtual. Other than that, you may notice some changes with this podcast. We will be doing a monthly episode rather than bi-weekly, and I am going to be getting a new co-host. You may have seen some new faces around the library, and Lizzie Jelly, who's our new librarian, is going to be joining me here. As always, we hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Shoreward Stacks. Thank you for listening, and be well. The Shoreward Stacks is produced and recorded by Lisa Quintero for the Shoreward Public Library. Music for the show is by Kevin MacLeod. The song is called Ice Flow and can be found at incompetech.com.